Well, here we have one quite large misted or steamed up window, or even blown. Basically the seal has gone in between the two panes of glass, and we've got a considerable amount of moisture trapped in between the double glazing, unfortunately. So we're going to have a go at repairing this, and the first stage is just to remove the beading. So I've got this tool that will help, so we'll make a start doing that. So just gently lever, working our way up and down. It is quite a large window, this one, just to give you an idea of the scale of it. I will furnish you with some dimensions later on in the video. Well, I've removed either side of the edging, and the lower section was a bit stubborn. I just literally took my time and just kept working on it a tiny amount at a time, and it did give. I'm just going to take a moment to observe where the packing pieces are in this window. I am hoping they're not actually covering the drains, but we will find out in the course of time. So we've only got the top strip to remove, and then we're going to get to the point of removal. So before I do that, I'm going to quickly put some gloves on. So I've got the window now removed, and you can see it's probably quite a good day. And one thing what is important is the weather. You definitely need that on side. But as one of the singers once said, I can see clearly now the pain has gone. So we've got this marked up. That's the inside. That's the outside. The different lengths of tape denote different sides. It's also marked up at the top as well. So in theory I should be able to assemble it exactly as it was removed. I'm even going to leave those suckers on. So we're going to make a start cutting away at the adhesive here. Wear gloves if you so wish. So we've got this marked up. That's the inside. That's the outside. The different lengths of tape denote different sides. It's also marked up at the top as well. So in theory I should be able to assemble it exactly as it was removed. I'm even going to leave those suckers on. So we're going to make a start cutting away at the adhesive here. Wear gloves if you so wish. So what I tend to find works is a lot of little slices, just angling the blade at the correct angle. Like I said, do wear gloves if you're uncomfortable doing this, and it is something that glaziers will do if they've got a decorative design. Basically a lot of little cuts seems to be better than one big one, so just go at the pace of the sealant, I would say. Don't force it, and just keep working your way around. This one's going easier than some. I don't really want to make it look any easier than it actually is, but just be wary when safe while working with knives. Okay, the first side was definitely the easiest one to cut. This one's taking a while. It pays to avoid rubbing the blade on the glass, but we just have to do multiple small passes, and then hopefully we'll achieve the desired result. Be very careful round corners. This corner has a chip. I presume it was like it when it was installed. It's definitely not down to me, but that is the most fragile part of the glass. And basically when you separate the panel, it's getting less robust and rigid. It's most robust in its double glazed form, so do be extra careful. You also find the top and the sides can be the hardest to separate. So we've now reached the moment of separation. Do go around it with the blade just to be doubly sure. So we've separated it here, and just all I've done is just slid it, and then we're going to remove this top panel very carefully. So with one half of the glass removed, it doesn't matter which, when we've got it carefully stored, we took great care handling it, and it's resting on a soft surface. So we can now repeat the procedure on the other side to remove this beading. So we've now completed that, that's free. Just be really careful to keep everything nice and straight. We don't want these bending, otherwise it's going to make it difficult to reinstall. Remember to remove all traces of sealant from the edges. Could actually use some isopropyl alcohol. I did use WD-40 in the last video, but that did leave behind an oily residue which took a bit of shifting with white vinegar, but it did actually work. What I've been doing is just very carefully scratching it off. So we've moved outside, and I just want to show you how much water this has been dripping all the way, carrying it outside. Well, it seems to have stopped now. You can see the pool of water what's appeared on the floor. Well, it has started raining. The best made plans go to pot, and basically I checked the weather forecast and all looked great beforehand, so this is some unforecasted rain we've got to deal with. I did consider a scheme where I opened some bin liners out and a bit of gaffer tape on the top to keep it weatherproof, but thankfully the direction of the rain isn't affecting this job at all. Okay, we've got this to remove here. We've got to remove the outer, and it's quite time consuming, there's a bit there. So just doing it cold, it seems to take multiple passes, and you just gingerly go this way. But somebody did say in the comments of the last video to use a hairdryer, so we'll give that a quick go. So I'll give that a minute or two with a hairdryer, and it's a lot softer. So I'll just do a few passes, and it's made a bit of a difference. It seems to be gumming up the blade more. So I think, yeah, it is a bit easier, but I think I'll just stick with doing it cold, as I don't have this blade gumming up issue to deal with. So we've now removed all of the, well, a lot of the thickness of the adhesive off the edge. I'll just take a minute to show you this frame. It's a bit different to the other ones I've worked with. You see we can undo the frame there. It just pulls apart there. Now on other frames I've worked on, they have actually had one of these on each corner, but as we get around this one, it's actually formed, and so it's going to be a bit challenging when it comes to, if there's any desiccant in there, which I'm totally unsure, it's going to be a bit challenging to remove, but we will find out. So I'm going to disconnect the frame here, and then I will decant the desiccant onto a tray. So I've just gingerly wiggled this apart. It helped to run the Stanley knife blade to clear the edges, and you can see the camera focuses. I've quite a quantity of desiccant in there, so we'll attempt to remove that. I'll begin decanting it onto the tray. That's coming out nice and dry actually. I'm hoping it just has the desiccant in two sides. I'll not know till I've successfully decanted it all out. It's very damp in this side, so we're going to have to give it a tap. And we're going to persist like that for some time. So I've liberated all the desiccant from the frame, and I've had a bit of good news. I did wonder if it'd still have desiccant in at the time of production, but it's just literally the two sides are filled with desiccant. I can see why, because from an engineering viewpoint, if you're going to fold metal, we don't want a load of desiccant interfering with that process and potentially causing failures at the manufacturing stage. So we've got the oven on now, and it's 12:18, and we've got it in there, so hopefully it'll dry out quite nicely. So it's now time to have a bit of a clean up, and we've got some white vinegar spray for cleaning the glass with. I've scraped a lot of sealant away from the edges very carefully so as not to damage it or, end bash it. Because if we break it, we've failed, and that's the way I view it. So we're going to clean these to within an inch of the life. So I've got a scouring pad. I'll just spray that with white vinegar. And we need to get these edges spotlessly clean, otherwise we will be in trouble and it won't seal. So keep looking over it, check and check again. You may have to scratch a few bits off of old sealant with a knife or a blade. I quite like to do it both sides, even though the exterior doesn't matter. Just be very careful not to run your hands down the glass. Wear gloves if you're worried about the risk. Well, I've spent quite a bit of time cleaning this, getting right into the edges, getting rid of every trace of excess sealant. Now there's one more thing to do, and that's to address what could be hard water staining. So we've got his white vinegar spray there and bicarbonate of soda or baking soda, and we're going to mix the two together just to lift any hard water staining that could be on the window. You can see it reacts quite well, and it is quite abrasive, the bicarbonate of soda, as you're scrubbing with a brush. So I'll use the abrasive side and just go over the full panel. So we'll just go over it with a paper towel and get that mirror sheen back to the glass. So I've done multiple passes. This is the inside surface, and it's always a good idea to have somebody looking out for smears other than you if you're cleaning it. We've achieved a mirror finish, and we could do the other side just to be doubly sure, which I think we need to do. Okay, when you think you're nearly there, I just tend to go over it. This cloth's a Kermit, but I have previously used a dry clean microfiber towel just to buff everything up. I actually used a brand new microfiber towel, as this is a new cloth, and just keep going over it, and hopefully any little imperfections will be buffed out. So we'll do the other panel now. Well, I spent quite a bit of time polishing it with this, and well, must be on about effort 15 by now. One little tip: this is a perfectly dry cloth. If you just wet a tiny little corner, if you see any smears, and that will help buff them out. So I've got the desiccant out of the oven, it's nice and dry, and I've got a small funnel, and we're going to use that to fill up the frame. So I've refilled the inner frame with the desiccant, and one little tip I've got, when we remake this, it's not quite sitting on square. We can bend it and tweak it all day long, and we never quite get it exactly where we want it. With it being a larger window, it gives that problem. So the solution I've came up with is a bit of upholstery thread. I've got 4 of these. I've just positioned it roughly in the centre, the idea being we can grab hold of it, tweak it, get it where we want it, and then withdraw it. So we've got 4 of them, so we'll complete the sandwich. So I spent quite a bit of time. I've been checking the glass lines and all square, and we need to really equispace this gap all the way around, or as close as we can get. So if your inner frame's bowing in, we have a mechanism just to tweak it out slightly, We will withdraw them or cut them off as we get nearer the end. So on with the sealant. I've gone with a Bondit HA6 marine grade RTV silicone sealant. The colour's academic. But a window this size I would imagine could take a couple of tubes. So the weight of the glass is pushing everything down. So I'll go through with this untrimmed nozzle and I'll try and move it, just work it in. If we go that way, if possible, it will push the sealant in. Okay. Now I just fill, I remove the nozzle of this gun. The objective is just to fill it, and then we're going to give it a push in. With a razor blade, get a lovely smooth edge. Could use a scraper, but I don't have one to hand. And we keep going till that's totally sealed. And do remember to remove any excess from the top and bottom, otherwise we're just going to push it in towards the glass. So I've just got some duct tape. Okay, we've now gone round the lot with the tape, and you can actually push a bit of silicone up onto the glass this way. I've got a bit of a smear here. I've dealt with a bit of fairy liquid, but I want to really get the window put back in, and then I'll deal with more. So there's just a test I need to do first. What I want to do is basically check that these drains are clear and working, so we'll just pour a little water in and see if it goes away. I'll do the same on the other side. Now you can see that water's clearly dripping in 2 locations, which is excellent news, so I'm really pleased with that. So we can go ahead and refit the window. So after a bit of manhandling, put everything back in the same order. We've got a few smear marks to deal with. Generally I'm quite pleased. Yeah, so we're looking at a window which is 90, I would say about 94 high, and what centimetres that is, and probably about 107. So that's the dimensions of this window. Many thanks for watching, and why not subscribe for more repair possibilities.